Okay, okay, your objection's noted.
Blake Lively is now pleading with the judge to show leniency after Taylor Swift revealed the secrets she believed she could hide forever.
Prepared my remarks and my decision here today.
But Taylor didn't act alone. Her father intervened and shut Blake down, telling her bluntly, "My daughter isn't your toy to manipulate." Blake Lively strutted into court thinking it was just another Tuesday, hair done, lip gloss perfect, PR smile locked and ready. She truly believed the 2025 pre-trial evidentiary hearing would be a dull legal formality. Some paperwork, a few nods, and she'd be out in time for lunch with Ryan. Instead, she entered a public execution. Not literal, but career-wise, she flatlined.
Glad I had the opportunity to spend the night to do some deliberation on this matter and think about it.
It was because what she received was not silence or compliance. No. What she got was Judge Curtis Y.M. Lennox literally storming out of court twice in 2 weeks. This man, who has probably witnessed every courtroom stunt imaginable, looked at Blake, her lawyers, her circus act, and decided he was better off leaving than spending another second on her nonsense twice. Not even toddlers at daycare get escorted out that quickly.
In fact, you're excused.
And you know what set it off? Redacted financial records, clear hush money trails, and the kind of evidence cover-ups that would make a mob boss nervous. Blake Lively, Hollywood's Pinterest princess, is out here submitting spreadsheets with half the numbers blacked out, thinking no one will notice. Girl, this is federal court, not your little Instagram photo shoot with mason jars and overpriced jam.
Excluded in the first place because it was propensity evidence.
And speaking of preserve, remember that lifestyle brand she claimed would revolutionize authentic living? Yeah, turns out it was just a cover for silencing employees, paying hush deals, and running a PR mafia behind the scenes. Now she's begging the same judge she tried to deceive, pleading for mercy, while sobbing crocodile tears.
Why?
Because Taylor Swift's leaked texts and witness statements demolished her narrative like a wrecking ball through a glass house. Her lawyer quit. Her PR team imploded. Her reputation roasted. She's scrambling for pity like, "Please, Your Honor, ignore that time I threatened my best friend and paid off half my staff." Nice try, Blake. But when Taylor Swift hands the court your private texts and the judge turns purple, there's no skipping to the end credits. Consider the infamous Aspen wine glass incident. One of Blake's former employees, uninvited and visibly shaking, stood up in court and recounted a horrifying HR story. Flashback to 2015. Preserve hosted a winter retreat in Aspen, where execs sip wine and discuss fonts. Except Blake, in diva meltdown mode, allegedly hurled a full wine glass across the room over a missed deadline. That glass didn't just miss. It hit a woman's shoulder, shattered, required 6 stitches, and caused nerve bruising. Then Blake supposedly threw a $40,000 settlement check at the victim to keep her silent, all under an NDA crafted under duress. Hospital reports called it a kitchen accident because, apparently, when working for Blake, glass assault counts as slipping while baking muffins. Even worse, Leslie Sloan, her PR mastermind, scrubbed the incident from existence like it was a Vogue cover. Internal Slack messages show staff joking about Blake's temper tantrums as if they were sitcom fodder. The judge slammed the gavel twice and walked out mid-hearing. Reality, not legal drama. And Preserve itself? The brand failed not from bad branding or sales, but under the weight of lies, abuse, NDAs, and control-freak chaos. Court documents show employees worked 60 to 80-hour weeks, underpaid, threatened with termination if they asked questions like, "Hey Blake, why is our office a hostile dungeon?" Asking got you replaced with an Instagram model. Hush money. Not 1 or 2 payments, 5 separate ones, over $200,000, disguised as PR expenses like scented candles, except it was silence she was buying. Whistleblowers finally released unredacted financial records because Blake's team submitted reports that looked like someone blacked out a CIA file. And the public fallout? Unimaginable. Lawyers, PR pros, and staff were exposed to stress, ridicule, and career jeopardy. The judge had seen countless stunts, but Blake's circus act, her strutting, lip gloss, and perfectly coiffed hair, paled against evidence and testimony that left no room for theatrics. Every pretense of authentic living crumbled in court. Preserve wasn't a brand. It was a facade, a machine of fear and control. Employees testified under duress, recounting exhaustion, intimidation, and constant surveillance. NDAs and hush deals created a climate of terror masked by the polished image Blake sold online. Financial statements, once redacted, now reveal a consistent pattern of deception and manipulation. The Aspen wine glass event epitomizes the chaos, reckless behavior, physical harm, and calculated silencing of victims. From PR puppeteering to internal bullying, the company culture collapsed around her, leaving courtrooms and employees alike bearing witness. Her attempts at controlling narratives backfired spectacularly. Blake Lively, once a Pinterest princess, now navigates a legal nightmare of her own making, begging for leniency while every move, every text, every leaked secret is scrutinized and weaponized. The story of Preserve, the leaked texts, the Aspen incident, and the hush money paints a portrait of a brand and a persona entirely undone by deception, exposure, and relentless accountability. Every document, every witness, and every revelation serves as evidence of a career in freefall, and Blake's calculated attempts to maintain control have utterly failed. Courtrooms, judges, and the public see through the facade. Preserve was never authentic. It was a meticulous illusion. Blake Lively's carefully curated persona, her brand, and her power plays have now been laid bare for everyone to see, and there's no putting the pieces back together.
Sharpe.
Her excuse? Clerical discretion. Girl, no. That's not a typo. That's fraud in designer heels. The prosecution literally held the original documents side by side in court, showing the judge exactly what she tried to erase. And when Judge Lennox asked for an explanation, what did Blake's team do? They gave him PR spin. PR spin in court to a federal judge, which is like trying to charm a dragon with a scented candle. So, what did Judge Lennox do? Exactly what any reasonable person would do when faced with that level of nonsense. He walked out again, slammed his gavel, dropped the mic, and left the building. At that point, it wasn't a hearing, it was a circus with a blonde ringleader who thinks NDAs are the same as loyalty oaths. And where's Blake now? Exactly where she deserves to be. No lawyer, no defenders, no fanfare, just her sinking in legal quicksand, hoping the judge forgets she tried to erase reality with a Google Doc and an amicus brief written by a PR intern. The only thing being preserved now is the receipts, and trust me, the prosecution has them all. So, let's talk about Bernie, shall we? Good old Bernard Collins, Preserve's creative director. The guy everyone initially blamed for the cesspool of sexual harassment. For a moment, Blake's narrative was, I had no idea Bernie was doing all that shady stuff. Like she wasn't in the room, like she wasn't signing paychecks, like she didn't literally call the shots.
Cute, right?
Well, that fantasy didn't last long because the chat logs dropped. And they weren't just bad. They were Blake just ended her career bad. Turns out she didn't just know about Bernie's behavior, she protected it, even encouraged it.
Why?
Because he had edgy branding. Yes, edgy branding. Apparently, when your workplace is toxic and your boss is an image-obsessed control freak, that counts as innovative leadership. And we've got quotes. Blake literally dismissed harassment complaints as overblown sensitivity and said about one female staffer, keep her on payroll. She photographs well. That's not just cold, it's villain origin story disgusting. Imagine being the targeted woman, reduced to a visual asset in team photos. And just when you thought the bar couldn't fall any lower, Bernie's own lawyer flipped. His legal team confirmed Blake Lively's office orchestrated narrative control, silenced victims, and used Bernie as a fireproof scapegoat. Blake didn't light the fire and run. No, she handed Bernie the matches, posed for a photo with the flames in the background, and probably tried to turn it into a Pinterest board. The prosecution isn't treating this as a one-off. They labeled it a systemic abuse model, an intentional, sustained power structure where Blake's PR machine wasn't just ignoring problems. It was the problem. PR at Preserve wasn't a department. It was the entire company, a glorified smoke machine keeping the public clapping while staff bled behind closed doors. Speaking of smoke screens, let's talk Taylor Swift, the unexpected grenade in Blake's sinking ship. When her world started collapsing, Blake called Taylor, begging her to publicly defend her with a press release painting her as an unaware CEO. Oh, honey, if this is what CEOs do when unaware, I don't want to imagine them being intentional. Taylor's answer? Respectful no. She didn't want to comment on a legal matter involving real victims.
Fair, right?
Not to Hollywood's most entitled boss lady. Blake went full mean girl mode and sent Taylor an unhinged text. After a decade, you owe me. This friendship lives or dies by loyalty, aka if you don't lie for me, I'll ruin your life. Taylor bodied her. One line, no fluff, no drama. That's not how loyalty works. Cold, legal, fatal. It was the digital equivalent of handing Blake a shovel and saying, feel free to finish burying your career. Who leaked those texts? Blake's former PR executive, now subpoenaed, who said, this girl's been manipulating everyone, and I've got the receipts. The judge's reaction? Witness manipulation. Not messy friendship drama, not celebrity fallout, but legal manipulation. Blake didn't just lose a best friend, she added another felony-worthy footnote to her saga. And let's not forget the Sharpa scandal. Those clerical discretion redactions weren't mistakes, they were fraud. The prosecution presented the original documents to the court, exposing the attempt to erase reality. Blake's team responded with PR spin, thinking style could substitute substance in federal court. Judge Lennox, unimpressed, walked out mid-hearing. The scene was no courtroom drama. It was a circus, with Blake as the blonde ringleader, NDAs substituting for loyalty, and a legal system watching her stumble. Bernie's involvement? Explosive. Blake's I didn't know defense evaporated under chat logs showing her actively protecting and encouraging his misconduct because edgy branding was more important than employee safety. The prosecution argued this wasn't incidental, it was systemic. PR was the engine of deception, masking harassment and manipulating narratives. Taylor Swift's refusal to intervene amplified the collapse. Blake's unhinged attempts to coerce loyalty via text were evidence of manipulation. Every leaked message, every internal record, every HR horror became a weapon against her, culminating in courtroom chaos. Sharpe, wine glasses, NDAs, text messages, and PR spin, every tactic failed. Blake's career, carefully curated for years, unraveled in real time, leaving her exposed, isolated, and facing the consequences of orchestrated deception and abuse. From Preserve's toxic culture to her failed manipulations of friends, staff, and court, the evidence paints a picture of calculated misconduct, systemic abuse, and a PR machine that didn't save her. It became her undoing. Her fall is complete. No lawyers, no allies, no fanfare. Only receipts, subpoenas, and the public watching as a once Pinterest-perfect persona crumbles under the weight of her own deception, manipulation, and legal reckoning. To her already flaming disaster file, Blake wasn't done gaming the system. When real evidence turned against her, she reached for her favorite tool, PR camouflage. Enter the months-late amicus brief from organizations like the California Women's Law Center. Sounds noble, right? Until you realize it had nothing to do with this case. Blake's team paraded these advocacy groups to convince the judge she represented all victims everywhere, turning her case into a symbol of every woman's fight against oppression. Meanwhile, the judge held redacted financial documents, NDA abuse claims, and threatening texts to Taylor Swift. Girl, what story are you reading? Even worse, the brief was filed 2 months late, while past the procedural deadline. And, of course, it came with a LA Times press release. This wasn't about justice, it was about headlines. Blake basically tried to turn her court case into a sympathy tour, but instead of applause, she got a verbal spanking from Judge Lennox, who called it irrelevant emotional leverage. Let's also address the elephant in the courtroom. AB 9003, the California law Blake tried to hide behind, designed to protect SHSA victims from retaliatory defamation suits. The kicker? Her case is in New York. That law doesn't even apply. And even if it did, she's being sued for more than defamation, witness tampering, financial manipulation, workplace abuse, and potentially obstruction of justice. All the legal dress-up, advocacy group endorsements, speeches, and emotional appeals weren't a defense. They were a costume, a stunt, an Instagram-ready pity parade meant to distract from the mountain of evidence swallowing her whole. The irony? In trying to portray herself as a victim, Blake exposed herself as the architect of an entire abuse system. She didn't just run a bad company. She ran a psychological maze built on fear, beauty optics, and PR blackmail. She tried to spin, polish, glam, and package it with a filter. Blake Lively's legal team didn't just fumble the bag. They stomped on it, lit it on fire, and tossed it at the courthouse steps like auditioning for a Netflix crime doc. Witness tampering? Check. Redacted documents? Double check. Post-subpoena cash offers disguised as PR therapy. Blake's people essentially said, why not commit every legal offense in the book while under oath? Let's start with the dumbest move, contacting 2 witnesses after they testified. Blake might have thought sending image consultants and social media cleanup services was just celebrity rehab. But when those people had already submitted statements, it wasn't damage control, it was witness tampering with glitter on top. One ex-staffer even got a mysterious gift in the mail after being subpoenaed, a revised NDA and a check. How cute. Nothing screams innocence like rewriting hush contracts once the feds show up. It wasn't subtle. It was caught in email threads and Slack messages, now printed, bound, and gift-wrapped with sticky notes labeled Exhibit Clown Hour. Then there were the financial records. Blake's defense team submitted heavily redacted documents, thinking no one would notice missing pages. Except a whistleblower had the unredacted versions showing over $200,000 in hush money payouts tucked under PI expenses. That's not clerical discretion. It's creative accounting for criminals. When the judge asked what legally delusional hell was going on, Blake's team said it was clerical discretion. Judge Lennox, in possibly the driest burn of 2025, called it what it was, a mockery of federal due process. Translation: this isn't a spreadsheet typo, sweetheart. This is a felony with a ribbon. To top it all off, Blake's own lawyer quit, packed their bags, and left, releasing a scathing statement highlighting the futility of continuing with a client who repeatedly tried to manipulate evidence and obstruct justice. The cumulative effect? Every attempt to spin, manipulate, or charm fell flat. Each PR stunt, each delayed filing, each post-testimony contact became another piece of evidence against her. Federal court isn't Instagram, and the judge isn't a fan. Each redacted document, each NDA, and each witness intimidation effort stacked onto an already flaming legal disaster, showing a pattern of systemic abuse, manipulation, and total disregard for the law. Blake's campaign of distraction, amicus briefs, press releases, emotional appeals, didn't sway a single gavel. Instead, it highlighted a complete disconnect between perception and reality, exposing her as the orchestrator of chaos rather than a victim of circumstance. She tried to frame herself as a heroine of women's rights, a defender of victims, yet the evidence revealed her as the designer of a toxic workplace, a manipulator of employees, and a PR expert weaponizing silence. Each attempt at a heroic narrative backfired spectacularly. Every stunt, contacting witnesses, hiding documents, filing late briefs, only amplified the prosecution's case. Blake's fall was cumulative. The law, the judge, the victims, and the whistleblowers all aligned to expose the truth. No PR spin, no celebrity status, no sympathetic text could reverse it. From amicus briefs to Sharpie redactions to mail-delivered NDAs, every tactic collapsed under scrutiny. Blake Lively's carefully curated image, once flawless and untouchable, is now laid bare. Every action she took to manipulate the system and protect her image only added to the mountain of evidence against her, sealing a career implosion as public as it is undeniable, leaving her alone, exposed, and facing the full weight of federal justice. Statements citing irreconcilable differences and compromised ethics. That's the legal way of saying this woman is out of her mind, and I'm not going to jail for her. Imagine being so toxic your own attorney taps out before the trial even starts. Iconic, but in the worst way. But Blake didn't just destroy her courtroom standing. She dragged Hollywood's favorite directors into her flaming circus. First up, Paul Feig, who literally joked about Blake's subpoena on stage while promoting a simple favor, sipping gin, cracking wise about legal fallout, and thinking no one would connect the dots. Meanwhile, Blake begged a judge not to throw her into legal purgatory. And here's the sketchy part. Paul cast Mel Marone and Brendan Arons, two of Blake's loudest defenders, in his next movie. Coincidence?
Please.
It wasn't a casting call. It was a favor factory. Defend Blake, get a role, earn PR loyalty points redeemable as IMDb credits. But the real puppet master?
Sean Levy.
He was oddly thanked in the end credits of It Ends With Us, though no one remembered him being involved. Rumor has it he helped Blake re-edit the movie behind the scenes while directing Deadpool 3 with Ryan Reynolds. If true, that violates Directors Guild of America rules. Because let's be honest, if Ryan and Sean already rewrote scripts late at night to match Ryan's vision, what stops Blake from roping them into her PR war room? Sources claim Sean gave backdoor help while her film was collapsing creatively and legally. Industry whispers aren't whispers anymore. They're out loud, and it's ugly. That brings us to the final train wreck, Judge Lennox's second courtroom walkout. Yes, again. After tampering, threats, and bombshells, the judge didn't try to be polite. He stood, looked around like he'd rather be anywhere else, and walked out. No recess, no adjournment, leaving a legal mess and one blonde actress begging for mercy at an empty bench. This wasn't a hearing, it was a meltdown, a total loss of control. Courtroom whispers had been building for weeks. Now they became official discussions. Obstruction of justice, contempt of court, potential criminal referrals. Blake Lively might not just lose her Hollywood career, she could face real charges. Not a slap on the wrist, not a fine, but actual consequences. And where's Blake now? Exactly where you'd expect. Pleading. Pleading with Judge Lennox not to enforce sanctions, begging for time, for leniency, for the court to forget she submitted fake records, tampered with witnesses, threatened her best friend, and used advocacy groups as PR marionettes. She's no longer arguing innocence. She's begging the same system she mocked not to destroy what remains of her reputation. But it's too late. The public has seen the receipts, and the reaction is brutal. People aren't just mad, they're done. Done with fake empowerment branding, done with silence for cash operations, and very, very done with the girl boss mask Blake wore like a costume. Her career isn't on pause, it's in free fall. No director wants this chaos. No co-star wants to be the next leaked text. Blake's fall from effortlessly chic Hollywood sweetheart to manipulative PR tyrant wasn't subtle. It was televised, tweeted, and podcast within 24 hours. Once a darling of red carpets, she's now a case study in what happens when you build an empire on NDAs and narcissism. This isn't a redemption arc, it's the final act. The courtroom isn't applauding. Blake's mask is off, and the damage is done. From legal chaos to PR manipulation, from director favors to subpoenas, every misstep has compounded into a public spectacle of downfall. From Paul Feig to Sean Levy, from witness intimidation to financial tampering, every attempt to spin or manipulate failed spectacularly, leaving Blake exposed and vulnerable. Hollywood insiders talk openly now. The gossip is verified, the emails and Slack messages are exhibits, and the federal system isn't impressed. The blonde actress who once commanded headlines now pleads in silence as the consequences of her actions loom. The public, the court, and the industry are all watching. Every PR tactic, every delayed filing, every manipulative text, and every re-edit film clip has cemented a reputation not of genius or leadership, but of recklessness, entitlement, and systemic abuse. Blake Lively's career trajectory has flipped in real time, transforming from red carpet queen to cautionary tale. Every attempt to control perception has backfired, leaving her isolated and scrambling. The receipts, the testimonies, and the leaked texts are now permanent, public, and damning. Her legal battles, intertwined with her PR misfires and Hollywood favors, illustrate a collapse of strategy, ethics, and image management. Blake Lively's story is no longer one of charm or influence. It's a case study in how swiftly a meticulously curated persona can implode under the weight of deception, exposure, and accountability. Subscribe now and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is only getting messier.